What up, everybody? Welcome to the Razzball Fantasy Football Show. I'm your host, Sky Guasco. We got the full crew. We have a rare off-season quad box, folks. Maybe the first ever off-season quad box. Looking very much forward to it. We took a couple weeks off there for the holidays, the new year. Had to negotiate some internal terms here for the 2025 season. We've all got our places. We're back in action, and we're very excited to drop our Pro Bowlers from the 2024 season. Matty Styles, Derek Favret, and Jefferson Keys are in with me. I'm your host, Sky Guasco. You can find all of us on X at Sky Guasco, at Styles08, at Derek_Favret, and Jefferson __. That's two of you keeping math at home. 21. You can find everything Razzball at Razzball NFL. Subscribe right here to the YouTube channel. Find us on the podcast as well, anywhere you download your audio, and all of our articles still cranking out in the off season, getting ready for free agency, the NFL draft. We have dynasty content. We have everything going on for you, kicking up after the Super Bowl coming up this week, the big game. Make sure to check us out here and stay tuned all off season. All of our articles are available at football.razzball.com. Of course, I want to give a shout out to our good friends on the baseball side as well. Baseball is kicking off, of course. A lot of you are drafting already. If not, you will be in the next month or so. So shouts out to Gray, Beaton, and the rest of the crew on the other side. Make sure you go check out our baseball content. That's getting fired up as well, the flagship of Razzball. Maddie, Derek, Jeff, we got a fun one tonight. We're not going to go super nerd alert on this one. This is just going to be, we're having a lot of fun. We built some super rosters on our side. We don't know each other's teams, which makes it even more fun. This is fantasy football focused. We are building out our best of fantasy football roster based on the 2024 final tallies for fantasy points in PPR, of course, because there's only one setting. We're doing it each conference, NFC and AFC. We're going to be announcing these live on the show. You're going to see them on the screen for YouTube. Of course, I'll repeat those for the podcasters. And we're going to be tallying what their score actually was from the 2024 season. And then we're going to see who has the best squad that we put together. Now, there's some fun rules in this one. We cannot use any players that have already been used from a single team. So, for example, if you pick the Ravens guys and you use Lamar Jackson as your quarterback, you cannot use Derrick Henry. If you use Jalen Hurts, you cannot use Saquon Barkley, and vice versa. So there's a little bit of strategy here. Which quarterback? Jamar Chase? Do you want Joe Burrow? Do you want Chase Brown? Do you want T. Higgins? There's a lot of options there. You can only use one of those guys per team. So we'll see a couple of mix-ups. All right, before we get into it here, I want to check in with the boys. Gentlemen, it's been a couple of weeks since we've had all of you guys on, a couple articles written, a couple of episodes, but we haven't had a quad since the NFL season turned into the playoffs. Quickly, let's go down the list here. I'm curious, what is your most intriguing thing for recapping? Love it right off the bat. Matty Styles, I'm going to get kicking off with you, bud. What is your top, most intriguing situation from 2024 heading into 2025 so far?
News broke today that Josh Jacobs, being a good team guy and a leader, has said that the Packers are 3 players away from competing for the Super Bowl. So I'm curious to see what that means to the front office and where those 3 players might come from. Hashtag Myles Garrett trade.
If you're the front office and you are a team owner, of course, in Green Bay there, Matt, are you going with TJ Watt or Myles Garrett?
Myles Garrett.
Myles Garrett. All right, Derek, same question. Most intriguing situation heading from 2024 to 2025.
Yeah, for me, it's going to be in the Motor City, actually. Detroit came into the playoffs, probably the most exciting offense, but they were the favorites in the NFC. They lost both of their coordinators. Are they going to, stand pat? Are they going to bring in another superstar? What are they going to do? I mean, they got the taste of it. They got the taste of disappointment in the fact that they were supposed to win and they got beat at home. First playoff game at home in forever. So I'm kind of interested to see what's going to happen in Detroit. Are they going to be as good as they were this year, or are the long-suffering Detroit fans going to just continue with their disappointing ways?
Bigger fan of Eminem or Kid Rock, Derek?
Eminem.
Eminem. Yeah, I think that might be a landslide. Jeff, same question. Most intriguing 2024 to 2025.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep my homer hat on, but it's the Jags bringing in Liam Cohn and that whole debacle there. I'm excited for what the offense is gonna look like next season. Is BTJ just gonna be a target hog? Are they gonna release? Rumors Christian Kirk might be getting released, Evan Ingram, cap hits. So I'm really curious to see how the Jags offseason looks and who they bring in and just offensively, because that just goes right into fantasy, because the Jags were supposed to be a good offense, but they weren't. Is ETN going to get more work? Is Bigsby not going to get the workload? I'm just kind of curious to see how it all plays out.
I like that. Jeff, we already knew what Mark Brunell's career looked like. Shout out to lefty quarterbacks. Big up Steve Young. Would you rather have what you got from Mark Brunell or the promise of Trevor Lawrence moving forward?
Damn. I love Mark Brunell. He's a hero in my book. Damn. I'm gonna go with the future, because the future is unwritten. You never know. So I'm gonna go with Trevor.
It's getting tired.
It's now or never. So if Liam can't do it, I don't know who's gonna be able to do it. So yeah, let's just go with that. We got BTJ. He has his Jimmy Smith like Brunell had there. So we got to find the Keenan McCardell, and then maybe they're on maybe T. Higgins in the offseason. Maybe they bring him in.
That's my boy. Southern boy went to Clemson. I like that. I'm excited. I'll keep my homer hat on as well. I'm excited to see what team the 49ers, trade Deebo Samuel to, and how many picks we have to give up for Miles Sanders. You guys remember Miles Sanders? Myles Garrett and or TJ Watt. A lot of trade talk going on with the 49ers. Of course, we almost dealt Brandon Ayuk last year. Debo will go this year, and how many picks we have to get to one of those edge rushers to see if this window will actually make anything happen for the Niners. So a lot going on in the 2025 off season here, but let's get into the Pro Bowls, guys. Having a lot of fun. The Pro Bowl, unfortunately for NFL terms, is completely toast. It was super fun when we were all kids. It's absolutely trash, obviously now. Hashtag mid at best. So we're gonna move off the NFL Pro Bowl. We got a fantasy Pro Bowl for you. Feel free to drop in the comments any of your comparisons. Again, you cannot use a player that's already been used for a team. This will get interesting. I'm going to kick it off here. I'm going to go with my first NFC quarterback. For those of you on the podcast side, we have 2 quarterbacks, 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers, a tight end, and 2 flex. Not a super flex. We're already doing 2 quarterbacks, so 2 flex. We're doing NFC, AFC, and then I got some fun all-timers for you at the very end of the episode. Stick around. My first quarterback here, Jaden Daniels. Washington Commanders. Again, rookie of the year, easy. Unfortunately for my boy Mo Nix. A lot of fun, a lot of comparisons to Lamar Jackson. If he's anywhere close for his fantasy career, I will take it. Huge promise in the NFC playoffs, obviously this year as well. Jaden Daniels, QB4 on the season. Absolutely tremendous. That's my QB1 so far in fantasy. Matt, I'll kick it right off to you. Double up.
Double it up.
Going to go Jaden Daniels as well. All right. We got 2 for Jaden Daniels. Derek, anybody different here?
Well, no, that's where I'm going as well. He's my top quarterback in this, my first pick.
Okay. So the formatting is Jaden Daniels. Now, again, let's see what Jeff does here. Yeah. 4 bar right off the bat. Okay. So I saw that happening. Here's why this happens, folks, and it'll get more exciting as we go along. We're looking for the best possible player for each team in the NFL. We all looked at the Commanders, and it's pretty simple. It's either Jaden Daniels or Terry McLaurin. Terry McLaurin has more competition at wide receiver for the bet and in the NFC. So we're going to go with Jaden Daniels, a full sweep across the board. Now we're also typing in the overall fantasy points for each player, and we're going to tally those up. So right now, it's all tied up, gentlemen. Good work. Jaden Daniels across the board for the QB1. QB2 for me, shouts out to Matt Stiles, distant cousin of Baker Mayfield. Got to go with Baker Mayfield. He was a top 12 quarterback last year. He's a top 5 quarterback this year. Matty Stiles, I have to imagine, has him as well. He does. Double it up for Baker Mayfield. Derek, I want to make it another 3 bar.
It is going to be a 3 bar. Yes.
Jeff?
Baker for me too.
Yeah.
4Zs. All right. So we got the 2.
Look at that.
We have the top 2 NFC quarterbacks, leaving Jared Goff off the board, which means we have some Lions to work with. That's what's going to get interesting. I'm excited about that. So We'll make it real quick. Our quarterbacks are all the same so far on the NFC side. Jaden Daniels, Baker Mayfield. Again, we cannot use any more Commanders or Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Sorry, Bucky. Sorry, Mike Evans. All right, let's move into the running backs then. I think there's going to be a few familiar names, but there's a lot more competition for these teams and players. I'm going to kick it off here with Saquon Barkley. He is my number one running back. He was the number one running back outside of week 18 because he sat, and of course, Jahmyr Gibbs went nuts. But Saquon Barkley is the number one running back for me. Matty Styles, same for you, sir. Saquon Barkley as well. Derek?
Same for me as well. I tell you, we didn't coordinate these beforehand, but
Nope.
Look at that.
Jeff?
Didn't. Yeah, same here.
Okay, then let's guess who. This one's going to be really interesting because I know some of you guys love Amon-Ra St. Brown. So we'll see how this goes. But I went with Jahmyr Gibbs as my second. He's the overall running back one because you count week 18 if you did that. Otherwise, he's still the best running back throughout the fantasy playoffs. And I love that as well. So Jahmyr Gibbs is my number two running back. Matt, you as well.
Spelled with a Y, spelled with a Y at the end.
Oh, that's right. Jahmyr.
We don't take off for spelling here.
Not tonight.
All right. Well, this is where we're going to be the first. We're going to have the first change. I went with Bijan Robinson.
Oh,
Bijan Robinson, nice. All right, Derek, you've been the first one to be off script here. And unfortunately, we don't have a script here at Razzball. Some other agencies do have scripts for their companies. We don't have one. So, Derek, please let us know why you went Bijan other than Jahmyr Gibbs. And my only answer has to be you got your boy Amon-Ra waiting at the wide receiver position.
Yeah, you might see that. But, I was thinking about Kyle Pitts at the tight end, but I leaned towards Bijan at the running back.
I love it. All right, Kyle Pitts. We'll see if he comes up at the tight end position. We'll see what happens. Man, you might have some Jacquizz Rodgers as your other running back, but you went Bijan Robinson. I like it. All right, Jeff, how about you, bud?
Shout out to Styles. Give me Josh Jacobs.
Whew. There's a mix-up. All right, why Jacobs over the other couple of guys? Because Jacobs is down the list there at RB5 or 6, I believe.
Yeah, just looking at all my options, I wanted to keep a lot of options. Lied about the Packers. No receiver stood out to me on their roster, and he had 15 rushing touchdowns, which is the second most in the NFC. So I feel pretty good about that.
Awesome, I love it. All right, well, let's recap here the running back position here for the podcasters. Saquon Barkley, unanimous across the top there, and then let's see, Derek and I both went Jahmyr Gibbs. And Derek, Matt. I'm sorry, myself and Matt. The screen's a little tiny for me. And Derek went Bijan Robinson, and Jeff went Josh Jacobs. You can see the totals there. Again, this will fluctuate quite a bit, but after quarterback and running back, Matt and I have 1,390 points. Derek just behind at 1,384, and Jeff pulling up the rear at 1,355. Let's get into wide receivers. We have three options here. My first wide receiver is Jeddah's Justin Jefferson. We were a little bit concerned because of McCarthy and then Darnold. Jefferson stayed hot, and they were incredible until the playoffs, unfortunately, for Minnesota fans. But Justin Jefferson did what he does. Matt Styles has got him as well. That's a 2-bar. Derek, how about you?
Yeah, that's going to be 3 for me. He's the player to take in Minnesota for this exercise.
Okay, Jeff?
Keep it coming. 309, Mr. Jefferson.
Mr. 309. Not to be confused with Pitbull, of course, who's Mr. Worldwide. Different area codes. Anyway, all right, Jefferson comes up first. That's another unanimous pick. Next up, CeeDee Lamb for me. That was a bit tough to go. Now, of course, I want to go Amon-Ra St. Brown. Matt and I could not do that because we both used Jahmyr Gibbs. Them's the rules. So I could not go Amon-Ra St. Brown. So I went CeeDee Lamb. Felt a lot worse than it actually was. He ends up PPR wide receiver 5. I was good with it. Matt, sounds like you finally have a different name than I do. Who's your second wide receiver?
Spoiler alert, I do not have a Dallas player on this list. CeeDee Lamb is an honorable mention. I'm going to surprise with another honorable mention later. My number 2 wide receiver is Malik Neighbors.
Oh, I like it. The Rook. Got 2 rookies on the board. I like to see that. Malik Neighbors.
Yeah.
Man, let's get this kid a quarterback. Derek, how about you?
Yeah, Neighbors is my number 2 as well.
All right, Jeff.
I went Amon-Ra St. Brown.
There you go. Was able to because you did not go Jahmyr Gibbs. Well done. That's a nice sneak there as your wide receiver 2 in this exercise. That's going to boost you up the board there. Let's see where that takes you. 256 and Amon-Ra St. Brown. What do you got? 302. Boom. Look at that. Nice, nice. Okay, third wide receiver. 2 of you have already picked him, but I had CeeDee Lamb just ahead. So I actually went Malik Neighbors as well, but he's my wide receiver 3. So we all love Malik Neighbors. Matt already went Malik Neighbors. So who's your third wide receiver?
All right, this is where it gets squirrely for me. I was not concerned with total points. I was concerned with more points per game. Who stood out to me, who cannot be covered. And so my number 3 wide receiver is going to hurt in the overall point total. But bear with me and think for a moment how good Puka Nacua really is.
Nice. I like that.
Puka he could not be if it was not for that knee issue at the beginning of the year, with the fact that Cooper Kupp was not who he was supposed to be, and how much Matthew Stafford loves Puka Nacua, and the fact that he just catches everything thrown his way. And I believe he averaged a Fantasy Pros, Jeff, don't quiz me, 18.9 per game. Does that make sense?
18.8, yeah, 18.9.
Yep.
Right on the dot.
Attaboy. Matt, thumbs up or thumbs down? Puka Nacua without Cooper Kupp next year, who probably goes to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Puka Nacua has 2,000 yards receiving next year.
2,000?
2,000, right on the dot.
Now I give him probably 1,850 to 1,900. He'll have 100+ catches. And spoiler alert on the Cooper Kupp, nobody is going to trade for him unless the Rams buy out a lot of that contract or hold some of that money. So I wouldn't be shocked if they end up having to cut him.
Oh, man, pour one out,
wild.
dude. 2009. Yikes. Yep, one of the fantasy football best. Okay, Derek, who's your third wide receiver?
Yeah, should be no surprise. It's already been mentioned. Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Boom.
Oh, wow.
Nice. Yeah, you guys are huge with the Amon-Ra there. It was really the difference between Jahmyr Gibbs and Amon-Ra St. Brown. So good call there. All right, Jeff.
And for me, so one of my personal favorites this year is Drake London.
Nice. Throw a Falcon on there. I mean, outside of Bijan Robinson, there's not another option, but went with it right there. All right, gentlemen. I like that. Let me casters. Again, if I'm cutting out or whatever, someone just take off. We got an internet squirrel situation going on here. All right, wide receivers here. Myself went with Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb, and Malik Neighbors. Matt went with Justin Jefferson, Malik Neighbors, and Puka Nacua. Derek went Justin Jefferson, Malik Neighbors, and Amon-Ra. And Jeff went Justin Jefferson, Amon-Ra, and Drake London. So everybody went Justin Jefferson. 3 out of 4 went Malik Neighbors. 2 of you guys had Amon-Ra, and then we had Puka, CeeDee, and Drake London in the mix as well. All right, after quarterback, running back, and wide receivers in the NFC, let's see, we have Derek taking the lead here, 22-51, and Jeff has 22-06. I've got 22-18, and Matt's got 21-61. Let's get into the tight end position. There was only a couple names here for this spot. I went with my homer pick here. Went with George Kittle. I thought about the other cat as well, but I went with George Kittle here. I had to throw a 49er on there best I could, and the wide receivers and CMC disappeared. So shouts out to my boy Kittle.
I had Kittle penciled in early, and I landed on Trey McBride.
That's the other one. Derek?
Yeah, it's going to be George Kittle for me.
I went
Jeff.
Trey McBride.
Trey McBride. All right, those are the only 2 really that you'd be picking at the NFC position at the tight end. Again, if you're just joining us, some of the parameters here, you can only use one player from one team once, so we cannot use multiple guys from any single team, and we're trying to get the best possible roster from the NFC with using those parameters. So a lot of fun there. Now, this is where I think it's going to get really interesting. Tight end was a no-brainer. Quarterbacks were unanimous. Running backs were pretty close. Wide receivers are pretty close. The flex positions, I think, are going to get interesting depending on how we picked running back or wide receiver. They are not super flex, so these are going to be running backs or wide receivers. Let's see what happened. Maybe I buried the lead a little bit, but I was able to sneak in as well Bijan Robinson as my flex running back 1. Matt did as well. Derek?
Yeah, you guys are sneaky, but I am as well because my first one is Josh Jacobs.
All right. So Derek already had Bijan up in his RB2 slot. So you already used Bijan. And then you're going to go Josh Jacobs as well, who Jeff already used. So Jeff, who's your first flex?
My first flex, I went with Kyren Williams.
Nice.
Kyren. I was wondering who was going to pick Kyren Williams. I think somebody else is going to have Kyren, I'm sure. All right. And I also went against the grain for the last 5 years of my fantasy football analysis. Swallowed my pride, enjoyed some quality football, and also went with Josh Jacobs there as my flex 2. So I have Bijan and Josh Jacobs. So the top 4 running backs in the NFC. Derek, how about you? Oh, I'm sorry, Matt. I skipped you.
Matt.
Yep. So this is where my Puka Nacua decision, knowing that he did not have a full season, this is where I evened the books with Alvin Kamara. AK-47, people forget about what he did all year. His points may not be where some other guys are, but he was absolutely insane for fantasy this year.
Nice. I really wanted to get Kamara in there as well, just moving things around. I was able to get the other guys who had a bit more fantasy points from him, but don't forget about Alvin Kamara in 2025, folks, especially if Derek Carr is able to come back. All right, Derek, go ahead with your flex 2.
Yeah, for me, this player needs love. I mean, the team needs love, but this player needs love in the fantasy world. He had a great season, and so I'm putting in Chuba Hubbard.
Nice.
As my flex 2.
Nice. He's on the Carolina Panthers, I believe. I had to scroll down.
Team in Carolina.
Okay, yeah. Cool. Just making sure. I had D'Angelo Williams, Jay Stu, Mike Tolbert, Christian McCaffrey. Okay, just making sure. I had Miles Sanders, of course. All right, Jeff, how about you? Who's your flex 2?
So I went back and forth on this one, and I didn't go the Cowboy. I went Malik Neighbors only because CeeDee Lamb did not play Week 17 when it mattered most to fantasy owners. And this was a fantasy, make-believe team. And so I'm going to roll with Malik Neighbors, the guy that was healthy and played.
Nice. I love that we're
Don't
able
let
to
it ever be
these,
said. Don't let it be said that I'm a homer. I left Josh Jacobs off to prove I could do it. And by the way, throw this out there, there's not one Bear on the list.
No Bears. No Bears. I was hoping to squeeze Cole Kmet somehow, but Keenan Allen's going to retire, unfortunately, which is lame. All right. Well, this is our NFC squad. Gentlemen, I'm going to give everybody the opportunity to read off their own teams. I'll start with, then we'll go final scores here at the end. Of course, YouTubers can already see that, but we are going to read it off for the podcasters as well. So NFC side, again, the parameters are you can only pick one top guy from each team. You cannot use any 2 players from the same team, which moves these things around a little bit. My 2 quarterbacks are Jaden Daniels and Baker Mayfield. My running back position is Saquon Barkley and Jahmyr Gibbs. My wide receivers are Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb, and Malik Neighbors. My tight end is my boy, George Kittle. And my flex positions are 2 other running backs, Bijan Robinson and Josh Jacobs. Matt, read off your roster, please.
Jaden Daniels, Baker Mayfield. Running backs are Saquon and Jahmyr Gibbs. Receivers are Justin Jefferson, Malik Neighbors, Puka Nacua, who, if I was to make a change, I'll discuss that in a minute. Trey McBride at tight end. And the 2 flexes are also running back Bijan Robinson, Alvin Kamara. The change that I struggled with was finding a way to not use Josh Jacobs and get accused of being a homer again. The change I could have made was a receiver in for Nacua with Josh Jacobs being placed down in the flex, but I wasn't comfortable with it being Drake London or any other receiver that I saw out there. So as much as I love Kyren as a flex, I went with Puka, not based necessarily on full statistics. So it should have been CeeDee Lamb for me, or that was the honorable mention pick, would have been CeeDee Lamb, and then I could have squeeze Josh Jacobs in where Alvin Kamara was. So Kamara and Josh Jacobs, Josh Jacobs and CeeDee Lamb were my honorable mentions. And as you can
I think
see,
it'd be really fun to. I think it'd be really fun to do this exercise another time with a points per game model instead. I looked at that a bunch of times. I was looking at guys like, I want T. Higgins points per game, but total wasn't as much. Points per game, Puka Nacua, no brainer. Total, not as much. Some of these guys, they miss a couple of games that knocks their total down, but their points per game was phenomenal. That would be a fun exercise to look at as well before draft season. Maybe we'll do this all over again with that model as well. Derek, go ahead. Give us your NFC squad.
Yeah, of course, I got the same quarterbacks as everyone else. Baker was easy for me. I mean, he was going to be my certainly one of my two quarterbacks. I actually came back to Daniels because I came into this initially thinking I would go Goff, but once I just started to playing around with names, and I really liked Amon-Ra there instead, and so I just kind of landed back on Daniels. That's how I got there. Saquon and Bijan were easy ones for me, and same with the wide receivers. I talked about Jefferson, being really the only viable pick out of Minnesota. Same with Neighbors out of New York. I mean, he's really, if we're looking for other teams, and he really stood out for the Giants. Had a great season. And then Kittle was easy for me as well. Top tight end, and I like the running backs. And I mentioned had to give some love to Chuba Hubbard. It may have affected me a little bit in the scoring, but he just had a great year. He really came out of nowhere and had a really great year until he got hurt. So wanted to give him some love here.
I like that. Yeah, the tight end position was really literally a point off. You can see it 231 to 230. Just depends on the player you wanted to use there. Jeff, how about your squad?
Yep, Jaden, Baker, Saquon, Jacobs, Jefferson, Amon-Ra, Drake London, McBride, Kyron, and Malik Neighbors. The one that hurts the most is Drake London. He was my lowest score, and I think that's what costed me in this exercise. But I was just thinking about his season. He had over 100 catches, and I want to say he was the number 2 receiver in the NFC with receiving yards. He just didn't score enough touchdowns to get his point total up. So it's like you look at this exercise now. If I do CeeDee Lamb, probably in a better spot. But you know what? This is why it's fun. We get to put our bias in it a little bit. And you know what? CeeDee didn't play for his fantasy owners week 17, so you're not making my squad. So here we are in last place.
Nice. We hold grudges here, fan. That's what we do on the program. I like to see that. I was curious that I felt like a CD was a no-brainer. I know it was ugly, and if you managed him, it was really rough. I get it, but just for the exercise, the numbers game, it seemed like an automatic. But I'm the only one to choose him, and he had more fantasy points than Malik Neighbors, Puka Nacua, and Drake London. So there were a couple other guys that could have been slotted up there, and we're not using other Cowboys. I think is like what was easy for me is just who's the guy to use. Yeah, Matt.
And Derek and Jeff and myself have all lived in San Antonio. If you had lived in San Antonio as well for any given time, you would not have picked CeeDee Lamb. Trust me.
Fair enough.
True statement.
All right.
True statement.
I dig it. All right. There's a pub called Cactus Jack's in San Antonio. It's a nice bar to times enjoy. All right, let's get into the totals here then. Let's rally them off. Let's see, in fourth place, if you want to call it that. Looks like we had Jeff 2964. Third place, Styles 2966. Derek at 3,004 points, and I had 3,040. So very, very close, but just a couple of those names moved about. So maybe I don't have the Lamb shade, so I was able to take this down. We eliminate CeeDee Lamb, may have had a different result there. So that's our NFC squad. Again, a couple unanimous names, some unique names, a fun exercise to do by yourself. So we encourage all our listeners to just do this on your own time. It's pretty cool to see who the top dogs are. All right, gentlemen, let's move it down to the AFC side. Scroll down just a little bit. Perfect. And let's go in reverse order here this time, just for funsies. Jeff, I'm going to let you kick it off. Give us a quarterback. We'll go reverse. We'll go Jeff, Derek, Matt, and myself. One quarterback each, and then we'll move on.
My first quarterback was Josh Allen.
Makes sense. Josh Allen, the beast. If you look at all-time quarterback, fantasy performances, Josh Allen's only been in the league for 6 years. He has 5 of those out of the top 25. It's pretty incredible. Josh Allen 1, 2, Josh Allen 3. Spoiler alert, I'll do it just because it's fun. You can put me down for Josh Allen as well. That's a 4Zs, another 4-pack there. This is what's going to get interesting. Who went Lamar? Who went Derrick Henry? We'll see what happens. Jeff, who you got?
Your boy Bo Nix.
Oh, let's go. Nice. That's a go Ducks. I didn't expect on this exercise. Nice.
Yeah,
Derek as
actually,
well. What? All
yes,
3 of
yeah.
you?
Bo Nix for me too.
Oh man, no chance for me. I had 3 other quarterbacks I was going to put on this list before Bo Nix. Give me Lamar Jackson. I faded the king, but I got reasons. So give me Lamar Jackson here. That's awesome though. I'm glad you guys went Bo Nix. Nice. Now give him T. Higgins. Yo, Sean Payton's offense. Yikes. Like to see that. Or Cooper Kupp even. I think that'd be a lot of fun. All right. So we got Josh Allen across the board. 3 Bo Nix, and the 1 duck on the panel did not go Bo Nix. Like to see that. I went Lamar Jackson. Okay. So early lead for me, but that's going to change, I think, here pretty quickly with the running backs. Jeff, who's your first running back?
The King, Derrick Henry.
Yes, sir. If you didn't go Lamar, you got to go Derrick. How about you, Deke?
Same thing here.
Samesies, Matt? Yeah, of course. I could not go Derrick Henry, and this was the toughest decision I made in this entire exercise for both leagues. I faded Derrick Henry. I don't love it, but I had to go Lamar Jackson's points, who was so much further ahead in the quarterback position, so I took those instead. I dropped all the way down to Devon Achane as my top running back. I don't love it, but that's where I'm at. Devon Achane is my top running back. You guys all went with Derrick Henry. Jeff, who's your second running back?
My second running back was also Devon Achane.
Okay.
Yep, same for me.
Okay, and Matt as well.
All right.
Not to be a stickler, I assume you're correct. Are the points right? We all did it right, so it's irrelevant. But I have 282 for Devon Achane.
Yeah, I do not believe 203. 203 is much too low, I believe.
Oh, my apologies,
okay.
fellas. Let me fix that real fast.
That's all right. No problem. I mean, we all have the same guy, so it's
It can
somewhat
be
of a moot
203
point,
for
but,
Sky, but let's get it right for the rest of us.
Right.
Agreed.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to make sure. That's what I want to make sure was not happening. I knew Jeff would be down there. Just I'm running accounting. Oops, you know what I mean? Every once in a while, you just have kind of a little bit of oopsies. Okay, Derrick Henry across the board, except for Devon Achane for me. My second running back is Joe Mixon. Don't love it, but I'm really excited about my wide receivers and my quarterback. So Joe Mixon is my guy there at running back. So we had Derrick Henry for 3 and Devon Achane, all 4 of us, and then Joe Mixon as the mix-up there. All right, let's get into wide receivers here. Jeff, who you got?
Yeah, the Triple Crown winner.
Yeah, makes
Jamar
sense.
Chase.
Everybody else?
Yep, Chase.
Styles as well. All right, across the
Yeah,
board
my
there
argument
for
would have
Jamar
been-
Chase.
My argument would have been Joe Burrow over Bo Nix. I just couldn't pass
Yeah.
up on Jamar Chase.
Same,
I couldn't.
same here.
Just couldn't do it.
So I thought, yeah, I felt like the numbers were. It's interesting to do this because it was like passing on Derrick Henry to go Lamar Jackson, but you guys went Derrick Henry to pass on Lamar Jackson, and then also passed on Joe Burrow to get to Jamar Chase. So then went Bo Nix, which is interesting. We'll see how this totals up. This will be fun. All right, Jamar Chase across the board, no surprise there. Top wide receiver by a landslide. All right, this will be a fun one. Who's the number 2 wide receiver, Jeff?
BTJ.
Yeah. How about you, Derek?
Same thing.
Matt?
Duval.
Poor Liam. I think he thought it was a question and not a declaratory statement.
You know what? I will say he had one. He had one the very next day, and like at training camp or like in the building or something. And the reporter kind of called him out in funsies, and he gave a solid from the belly. Doesn't get talked enough because he joked himself off the bat, but I feel like he kind of centered himself, but we'll see. The dude knows football. That's all people like Jeff care about. All right, BTJ for me as well. Let's make it a 4-peat. Okay.
All
Jamar
right.
Chase and BTJ off the bat. Who's your third wide receiver?
I think this is where it's going to get real interesting. I'm going to go out and choose Garrett Wilson.
Mm-hmm. The best wide receiver in New Jersey, but the second best in our hearts. Is that right, Matt?
I believe he had 1,100 targets this year for not 900 yards.
Oh, God. Yeah, the return on investment for targets in New York was pretty rough this year on both
What
squads.
did Bob always talk about? ADOT? His ADOT is so low.
I think it was negative.
Yeah, his A targets was horrendous. Well, and Devontae missed 5 games. That probably would have helped him there. That's another one. I looked at these guys, right? Points per game. Devontae's a landslide, but you get that total up there, and Wilson passed him up. All right, Derek, you got Wilson as well. Matt, who you got?
I have Nico Collins. Again, I did not play by the 17 weeks. I went the guy that was probably the number 5 wide receiver for the year, but he missed time. So I like Nico Collins here.
I love that pick, and I almost did too, but just the way that my calculations worked out, I had to lean Joe Mixon, but I definitely wanted to go Nico Collins there as well. It's a dip in points, but I appreciate the philosophy. And, man, Nico Collins is probably going to be a first-rounder for me when it comes to draft season next year. I'm excited about that. All right, my third wide receiver is also Garrett Wilson. So 3 out of the 4 of us went with G. Will. So that's Jamar Chase, BTJ, unanimous across the board there. Garrett Wilson, 3 out of 4, and Nico Collins, the other Texan, along with Joe Mixon. All right, through 3 positions, we have quarterback, running back, and wide receiver. Let me do some quick cheating on the math bar here. Matt is at 2104. Let's see here. We have Derek at 2151. I have 2198. And unless Jeff is cheating, he is.
No.
So he's actually has 2151. Nice try. All right, let's move down to tight end here, and then we'll get into our flex as well.
Yeah, Brock Bowers. I think this is unanimous for everyone.
Yeah, Brock Bowers for me.
It's a shame. Tight end used to be like a really fun position in fantasy, but it's now just like really top heavy.
Raider. Yeah, I agree. Let's give me Brock Bowers as well.
Did Matt want Bowers as well?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Figured.
I mean, unless you go Kellen Winslow, there's not really anyone else in the AFC. Kellen Winslow. Duval. I'm reminded of the great Seinfeld episode where you're trying to figure out the emphasis throughout the sentence. Is it Duval or Duval or Duval? Duval. You know, I think that really changes things. Brock Bowers across the board there, 247 in PPR. By far the top tight end in the game, ahead of George Kittle as well. Gentlemen, very quick, thumbs up, thumbs down. Brock Bowers repeats as the number 1 tight end. We see it all the time. Sam Laporta, Kelsey when he was younger, Gronk, blah, blah, blah. Rarely does that number 1 guy repeat as number 1. We have thumb down, thumb down, thumb down. I'm going to go thumbs down as well because the Raiders have to change things at quarterback and wide receiver and probably running back as well. Jeff, I'm going to give him the vote of confidence. I like it.
He's all they got.
He is for now. He's all they got. He's all they need. He's all they got. He's all. All right, let's go into the flex here. This is where I think it's going to get interesting.
I think Henry Ruggs is out of jail.
No, he's up for parole. He's up for parole soon. I don't think he's out yet.
I think they'd be better off signing Henry Rollins.
Oh, count it. Nice. Henry Rollins. Wow. Well, Darius Hayward-Bay, I'm sure, is still on the waivers. Let's go into the flex position here, gentlemen. I really dislike my picks. We'll see how it goes.
I went Ladd McConkey.
Ladd. Nice. We got a Charger up on the board. Ladd McConkey. Another wide receiver there for Jeff. Derek, how about you?
So Jeff and I must have done this in parallel because he was my Charger pick as well. Ladd McConkey.
Did you guys do this like an old like a sophomore year of high school project where it's like, hey bro, like I'll bring the stuff if you come over quick and we'll just like do this assignment together, work about 50% each, make it happen. Is that like you guys just like meet up at a bar?
Yeah, the thing with group projects, one does the work and the other gets the credit. So Jeff did all the work and I'm getting credit.
Hey, man, A's are A's. I mean, that's right. As long as you get the score, who cares? Matt, how about you?
I feel all three of you made a mistake with Garrett Wilson, and the better wide receiver is Devontae Adams.
Oh,
But he did not, like we've talked about, he did not play the full season. He took a little bit of time off to pout, but he is, in my mind, a better wide receiver than Garrett Wilson.
Dude, he's so fun. So does this still count as this? Is that still a homer pick, Matt? Asking for a friend. Is it like a residual homer, so it still counts? Because you passed on Jacobs, which I respect, but do you like still consider Adams a homer pick, or is this just fresh?
Tell me, if you were starting a franchise today and they were both the same age in their prime, would you rather have Garrett Wilson or Devontae Adams? That'll answer itself.
Jordy Nelson, but Adams for sure.
Yeah,
all right.
Jeff loves Jordy Nelson.
Timmy Jordy.
I'm going to go with Ladd McConkey as well. Didn't think that was going to happen, but the AFC side was interesting. It's kind of rough, I thought. Looking for flex here in doing comparison. So Ladd McConkey, 3 out of 4, and the GOAT, Devontae Adams, won me many a ship back in the day, so I always appreciate him. I do have his signed jersey, by the way. Let's get into the second flex position here before we wrap out the AFC. Jeff, who you got?
Yeah, I think this one's going to cost me like Drake London, but that's all right. I went Jonathan Taylor.
JT. Nice. Now, you're running the scoreboard here. I didn't double check. Did you count the touchdown he dropped, or do you leave that off?
Yeah, I wish.
Nice. Just give like asterisk 6.
Yeah. But yeah, man, he balled out at the end of the season for the Colts, so it was hard to ignore that. So for me, I think he was a league winner for some people that kept the faith with him.
Yes, I agree. He's absolutely dominant, but slow start. We'll see what happens next year, and they keep Anthony Richardson, figure out what's going on with that, and obviously they got to boost up that offensive line and figure out wide receivers. Derek, how about you?
Yeah, for me, as mentioned already, Joe Mixon.
Ooh, all the way down there. Nice. That's a sneak attack scoop. Good work. Oh, thanks, Jeff. I appreciate you just giving me points. All right, Matt.
I had my first honorable mention was Ladd McConkey. I ended up going with Jonathan Taylor. I felt there was too many rookies getting love on my lists, so Ladd was the one that has to deal with the Pro Bowl snub.
I like that. Matt's old school. You got to earn your stripes with Matt. You know what I mean? You don't just get positional ranking. I like that. Good work. All right. This one, it just kind of makes me throw up in my mouth a little bit. 10 more points than Jonathan Taylor, which is literally the only reason I chose him in this exercise, but it's kind of rough. Jerry Jeudy, his 5 games of incredibleness were enough. Jameis is fun enough. I don't see Jerry Jeudy coming anywhere close ever again to this, but everything latched up for him once Watson went down. So Jerry Jeudy was my guy here for the final act. All right, let's get into the final tallies here once again after we do our rosters. Jeff, give us top to bottom, your quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, tight end, and 2 flex.
Yep. Josh Allen, Bo Nix, Derrick Henry, Devon Achane, Jamar Chase, Brian Thomas Jr., Garrett Wilson, Brock Bowers, Ladd McConkey, and Jonathan Taylor.
Ladd. I like it. Derek?
Yeah, I mean, Jeff and I had exactly the same until the very last pick. He went with Taylor. I went with Mixon. But I like both. Both of them actually were really good for fantasy this year for the most part. You know, they had surges and dips, but overall, I think where their ADP was at the beginning of the year, I think fantasy owners are probably happy with both of them this year. So good to see both names up there.
So because you had identical rosters outside of that pick, Jeff, you could have gone Joe Mixon. Why didn't you?
I didn't go a single Texan. A Cowboys or a Texans. Well, I despise the Texans. I had the bias there, but I knew Mixon was good, but I just thought Jonathan Taylor was better down the stretch of the season for me. So that was the difference maker for me. And I was wrong. I was wrong with their total points, though. But hey, that's why we do this exercise.
Yep. Only off by a handful, but I was just curious because you guys, you could have picked him and you didn't. So I was just curious there. Maddie, how about you?
Same with the other two gentlemen, all the way through wide receiver 2, and then I added the injured Nico Collins. Same tight end Brock Bowers as the others. My GOAT wide receiver Devontae Adams, even though he was in a cruddy situation, and the always oatmeal for breakfast, boring, but always seems to come through, Jonathan Taylor. So I will revert back to I have the lowest amount of points. I'm okay with that. I take this team into battle with against any team that's on the board at this point.
Matt, are you a guy? Do you put fruit in there or anything else?
Actually, I can't stand oatmeal. Something about the texture. Can't do it.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Same
I like
with bananas. Can't eat bananas. Texture. Kiwis. Something weird about it.
Avocado?
Only on my arm, and guacamole.
Love it. Guacamole.
By the way, you guys don't know this.
New sleeve.
This is all done.
Don't reveal it yet. We'll have to wait.
Yeah.
We'll have to. I think your Super Bowl prediction's on there for 2025. So let's wait. Let's wait to see that until it's time. All right, Matt's got his fantasy sleepers just tattooed on his arm right there.
Actually, it just says Brian Thomas Jr. all the way wrapped around from the wrist.
Nice.
Well, there's a baker
English
in there too somewhere, right?
A baker's my entire back is a
There we go.
Nice. Well, we'll have to get a full panorama at some point on the program, but it's a little late for tonight. All righty. My squad is, again, pretty similar to the guys. I went Lamar Jackson. Nobody else did. Everybody else went Derrick Henry. I went Lamar Jackson. Had to sacrifice a little bit on running back, Devon Achane and Joe Mixon. Everybody else went with those guys. And then Jamar Chase, Brian Thomas Jr., unanimous. I went Garrett Wilson with the other three. Outside of Matt going Nico Collins. We all had Brock Bowers. Ladd McConkey also pretty much unanimous. And Jerry Jeudy, kind of a sneak attack. If I didn't look at numbers, there's no chance I would have guessed Jerry Jeudy was that high and eligible for this position there. But he was by just a nose over Devontae Adams and Jonathan Taylor. So I went with him. All right, final scores here on this round. Matt with 2790. Jeff with 2841. Derek with 2858. And myself with 2897. So just edged it out just a little bit. I did it just for my own nerdness. I have a list of guys I wish I put on the list, but because of the numbers, they just didn't make sense. Or I picked Jamar Chase, so I couldn't pick Joe Burrow. Curious if anybody else did that, or if you have a name here where you're like, I tried to get this guy on, I just couldn't. I'm going to review mine to give you guys a minute or two to kind of decide those. But at quarterback position, these are players I wanted to put on the list, and they could have, but I just couldn't because I used a different player in their position for another area. Joe Burrow, Jared Goff, and Jalen Hurts. At quarterback, couldn't use them. I wanted to. Running backs, Derrick Henry, Kyron Williams, James Cook, Chase Brown, and James Conner, also top 10. Wide receiver, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Terry McLaurin, Drake London, who Jeff did take, Mike Evans, and Puka Nacua, who, if they played more games, absolutely would have been on the list. That was a points per game situation. They just didn't make it in total. Then I had Nico Collins, Devontae Adams as well, more points per game than Garrett Wilson, T. Higgins, and Chris Godwin, and A.J. Brown as well. Again, didn't play enough games to qualify, but they did in points per game. Tight ends, Brock Bowers was easy, and George Kittle, but David Njoku, Jonnu Smith, and the ghost of Taysom Hill also were dominant. Fun. I didn't do kickers just because. Everybody hates him except for Bob. Chris Boswell, kicker for the Pittsburgh Steelers this year. In standard scoring, which doesn't have actual points for other positions, he would have been the running back 16, the wide receiver 5, and he would have been the tight end 1 with 30 more fantasy points than George Kittle in standard formats at the kicker position. If you play kickers, get a good one. And make sure they have good morals. Okay, let's move on to the totals here. Deke, you have totals down there for us? All right. Derek, or let's see, Maddie had 57.56. Jeff had 58.05. Derek had 58.60. I had the grand total of 59.37. Did anybody else have any other players that were like Joe Burrow? I assume we all wanted to have, but we picked other guys. Was there anybody else that jumped off to you guys that you really wanted to have, but you just didn't?
JSN for me.
Same.
JSN. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. That's the only name that I have written down that hasn't been mentioned so far.
Okay. Derek?
think he's muted.
You're on mute.
Oh, you're
Yeah, so I had JSN initially on my scrub when I first did it, but then I ended up switching to Wilson, just because I knew he had a little bit better scoring. But I really wanted JSN in there. And then the other thing that caught my eye, no one
Can't
said
do
it
that.
yet.
JSN plays in the NFC, Derek.
Oh yeah, you're right. So yeah, scratch that. But I did have JSN in the mix. But the thing that caught my eye here on the AFC side is not one of us has a single Chief.
Yeah.
Three-time Super Bowl winners. Is it too early to say that? Too soon?
no, it's fine.
Three-
Yeah, you can lock
three-peat?
that up, Derek. You can lock it up,
It's already
Derek.
been
It's fine.
decided.
It's fine, Derek. You can lock it up.
Chiefs money line.
Yeah. So three-peat Super Bowl, Kansas City Chiefs, and not one of us picked a single Chief for this exercise. And I would wager that anyone else we brought on would probably do the same.
Points per game, you might be able to give me Rashee Rice as a
Rice.
flex, but he only played 2 games.
Yeah.
We'll see. Yeah, Travis Kelce just, I mean, he was top 3. But he wasn't where he usually is. Patrick Mahomes is number 10, but not high enough for what we're doing here. So we'll see. I mean, that's why people are upset more this year than the last couple of years. A, we're all tired of it. B, the Chiefs aren't good enough. Quick rant. The Chiefs aren't good enough to be where the Chiefs are. Period. They're not. They lost their star running back and star wide receiver. Travis Kelce's over the hump, and Mahomes is great, but he's not good enough to do all this. And their defense isn't as good. So with them still being as successful versus all these incredible other teams, it just unfortunately doesn't make sense. And then you start looking at the tape, looks bad. So give me 10 grand on the Chiefs. Okay. I had a little fun exercise here before my puppy wakes up and goes insane in 3 minutes because we're about at the money line for us. I did a fun little stat here, Derek, if you wouldn't mind. Thank you. And if she goes nuts, someone else can read this off here in a second. The time bomb is ticking. I can feel it. So I just looked at all time. I mean, all time. Like, I don't know what, like Otto Graham had for fantasy points necessarily. I didn't go that far back, but pre 2010 and then 2010 to current, I looked at the squads and all-time seasons for each position like we just did, and I just put a thing together for a comparison. And it was pretty shocking because some of these great seasons like Jamar Chase this year or whatever wouldn't hold a bag to some of these other guys. So I'm just going to read it off real quick and just get you guys' thoughts. So pre-2010, Tom Brady in 2007, 513 fantasy points, 50 touchdowns, 2 more rushing. Of course, he doesn't run it all, but he didn't need to. 513 fantasy points. Dan Marino in 84, lost to the 49ers, and never went back to the Super Bowl. Buddy had a great season at 491, 17 picks, though. Pretty rough rookie season for him. Dante Culpepper, pour one out for one of the most fun teams of that era. 475 in 04. And then Steve Young, shout out to my lefties, on the ground at 37 years young, 464 fantasy points. Those are your top 4 quarterbacks all time, basically before 2010, when rushing really became a thing for the quarterback position. LaDainian Tomlinson, Marshall Faulk, both OGs. 06, 481 for Tomlinson. He had about 5 other seasons pretty close. Marshall Faulk in 2000, greatest show on turf in 14 games, mind you, 465. There's no question in my mind. If he plays 2 more games that year, he passes LaDainian Tomlinson. Somebody else read it off here. I got to do puppy control. Start with my boy Jerry Rice, please.
95 Jerry Rice with 420 points. 2007 Randy Moss, the Freak, 385. 02 Maserati Marv Sr., 384. We've also got a 1983 Todd Christensen sighting at tight end with 289. Also Kellen Winslow Sr., for those youngsters that don't know that Kellen Winslow Jr. is actually a real junior, at 272. Dwight Clark, because Sky is contractually obligated to put 49ers all over the list where he can, and 04 Tony Gonzalez with 270. His flexes are Priest Holmes, who was absolutely insane in 03 with 27 rushing touchdowns. He also did it in 02 with 440 points, and that rounds out with Hall of Famer Emmitt Smith in 1995 with 427 total points.
Quick correction, just because I don't want to be too much of a homer. That's Dallas Clark of the Indianapolis Colts in 09, crushing it there at 272. Tony G. I thought that was interesting because we all regard Tony Gonzalez maybe the number one fantasy tight end before Gronk, and these other cats had better years. Thought that was interesting. Any thoughts on these OGs before we go to the pre's here?
It seems like Sean Alexander's missing from this list. He should be
he's
in
literally he's right after them. I just did the top two like a roster. I didn't list off 5 guys each position, but he's right there. I think that was 2005 if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I thought Antonio Gates would be on this list too.
Antonio Gates, not so much. He was dominant, but he didn't have the volume that the rest of these guys had, and he didn't have the touchdowns. He never had the touchdowns that Gonzalez and these guys had from P. Hillip Rivers.
And was there a better NFL team run at running back better than the Chiefs for like that 7, 9 to 10 or 11 year period? I want to say it started at the end of Okoye, went into Barry Word, Priest Holmes, Larry Johnson, right? They were just the run of
Jamal Charles.
Yeah.
Jamal Charles, Kareem Hunt, Spencer Ware had a great season.
Yeah.
I mean,
name running backs that just went bananas for that. And by the way, they couldn't win football games. That was a team that probably should have gone to the championship. They did.
Yeah, Montana almost took them there. They had the Rams as well. I mean, you have a lot of Steven Jackson seasons that didn't pop up on this list quite, but he's right underneath this bubble as well. And then Todd Gurley. Yeah, pretty interesting. So let's go down to the 2010 to the currents, and then you can kind of compare rosters. I thought that was kind of fun. This year's
and Jeff was alive, so there we go.
Yeah, there we go. Circa Jefferson. I like it. All right, we'll go. What is it? I guess it'd be BC. Never mind. Okay, 2024. Lamar Jackson has the best season this year of anybody after 2010. That's at 434. I put 17, 16 games because some of these cats play 17. Some obviously don't, so the numbers are off a little bit. But Lamar Jackson this year, 434. Patrick Mahomes, maybe before the cheating, 2022, 429. Hell of a season then. Then we got 2019 Christian McCaffrey. We all regard him still as the number one running back when healthy. This is 6 years ago at this point. 471 in 16 games. David Johnson. You guys remember the one season from David Johnson where he won everybody titles? Mm-hmm. 2016, 408. That's in 16 games. I had to throw a shout out here to Bob. Huge Arian Foster fan from back in the day. A lot of us were in 2010. Just made the cut by the metric. 392. He's the third running back on the list. Also, a little note here. Only 3 players inside the top 15 running backs since 2010. What that means is the other 12 running backs are all pre-2010. So you really see that running back, wide receiver, passing game, run game change in 2010. So CMC, David Johnson, and Arian Foster, top running backs. Wide receivers, Cooper Kupp. We talked about it earlier. 440 points in PPR in 2021, Triple Crown winner. CeeDee Lamb last year at 403. And Jamar Chase this year at exactly 403 points as well. Mr. GOAT himself, Gronkowski, is on this list about 6 times, but his best season was in 2011 with 331 fantasy points in 16 games. If you're curious where Travis Kelce ended up, that was 2022 with Mahomes this season, 316, but he played in 17 games. So again, you start taking those averages out of those guys a little bit, makes Gronk look a little more beastly in one less game. Antonio Brown, pour one out. 2014 and 2015, he had 387 point something and 388 fantasy points in PPR, both seasons back-to-back. The consensus wide receiver won in a landslide in 16 games. Tyreek Hill in 2023, 376. And then Julio Jones never gets talked about enough in these circles. 16 games in 2015, right behind AB at 375. That was the year that he had 300 receiving yards in a game. Of course, only scored 1 touchdown that game, which is a crime. Calvin Johnson did not make the list, which I thought was interesting. Any thoughts here, gentlemen?
Yeah, I love the David Johnson pull there. That was nice. Yeah, this makes sense.
I thought Gurley outpaced as well.
How quickly Tyreek has separated himself from this list in one season.
Same with AB, right? I mean, they kind of gone. I mean, different scenarios, but same fantasy trajectory.
Yep. I mean, with Tyreek, I'd be willing to. I think Tyreek might be a steal. Not to get too ahead of our offseason content, but if Tua stays healthy or he goes to another team, and like if he goes to Jacksonville or I don't know, Bo Nix or something ridiculous, and they just give him quality targets all game, I think he can still be fine. The Dolphins are a mess this year.
Duval.
Jeff, any thoughts on the Jeff era?
Yeah, I was looking. What was Michael Thomas's big year from the Saints?
2019, and
It was all receptions.
It wasn't touchdowns. He had 9 touchdowns, so he got smoked.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to think. Yeah, those are like that's the one guy. All these make sense.
Yeah, it's surprising just not to see Mike Evans on this list either, or as an honorable mention. That's a hard wide receiver core to crack. So
it's wild though. You think about it, think about somebody. Devontae Adams, right, is one that's actually pretty close, but like Julio's right there all the time. But AB passed him in that era. Calvin Johnson's there, but didn't have the touchdowns, right? Like it's either you don't have the receptions, or you don't have the yardage, or you don't have the touchdowns. Mike Thomas had everything but touchdowns.
And you've got Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers got 500 touchdowns. He's nowhere on this list.
Not in a single season because it's over 20 years or whatever, Yep. So it's really interesting to see this kind of stuff because these are single season performances. Of course, you can dive as deep as you want and elongate your list, but this was really fun to do. Just kind of cool to look back on the yesteryear, and it's kind of fun. Look at the totals really quick. There it was 4083 for the 2010s, and what was it up top? 4,300. So the OGs beat them out by about 200 fantasy points. I thought that was pretty cool. And the NFL was different back then, but you get the running back bump is so massive at flex.
One question. Do you recall what Jimmy Graham was on the tight end list?
I don't, but I can get back to you off air. He was close, but it's all, again, it was like 1 or 2 seasons, but he never had the touchdowns either. Gronk and Kelsey get the touchdowns and the yardage plus the receptions. A lot of those Saints guys, dude, Drew Brees spread it out so much they had the receptions and yards, but never the touchdown totals.
I wonder how close Aaron Hernandez was when he was insane, literally and on the field as well. But I wonder, great. He had to be at least for a couple of seasons on near the elite players on that list for tight end.
There were a couple guys here that was fun to see, like kind of the one-hit wonder seasons. We were like, oh yeah, I remember him being like incredible for 1 year. Like Kareem Hunt when he was a rookie was unbelievable and just never quite got back, to what that was. Arian Foster had that season in 2010. So really fun. Melvin Gordon was on the list.
What did Mostert had 23
touchdowns
last year and is not even sniffing the list.
No, because he didn't have he had like 1,000 yards, but he didn't have also receptions come into this because it's all PPR.
Yeah.
But all these guys in the pre-2000s, all those running backs had like 24, 27, 25 touchdowns like annually. And you look at Emmitt Smith's rushing log, you guys, the dude averaged like 24 carries a game. Like that's a throwing stat for Justin Herbert these days in Los Angeles. It's unbelievable. He had like 31 carries in about 4 games that season. Pretty unbelievable. So anyway, that wraps it up. That's a lot of fun with the Pro Bowl selection. Quickly, Jeff, Derek, Matt, one more thought here of this exercise. Did you learn anything? Does it not matter? Was it fun? What are you looking forward to? And then what did you learn here from this before we get out of here? Jeff, I'll have you go first.
Yeah, just got to throw away your bias sometimes and get the best player, but that's too hard to do sometimes.
Derek?
Yeah, this was fun. Actually, I think most of us did this without, really looking at the stats. So, we're about a month and a half away from, the end of the season, a month away from the end of the season. And just, looking at it back in perspective, Matt's talking about Nico Collins and what could have been if he stayed healthy. And, I threw in Chuba Hubbard. It's a fun exercise just to see how they all shake out once you put them, normalize it and put them all on the same page, to see how we build our squads. This was fun.
Matt?
3 quick. We should do this with top 6 round busts and see who has the lowest total.
Oh my God. that would be
no-
super disappointing, but I'm down.
Number 2, Pete Alonso re-ups with the Mets, 2 years, $54 million. And number 3, well, I have 3 and 4. Number 3 is tomorrow starting 3 p.m. I start prep for a colonoscopy. Don't look for any videos. And number 4,
Duval.
With the eyes too, though.
Duval.
No, the eyes are super. It's a little bit too much.
A little Adam Gase, a little Adam Gase. Yeah, I like that.
A little bit too much. I'm live on Tinder tonight.
Oh my God. Oh, shout out! I hope Jen didn't hear that. I mean, it doesn't matter. You do what you want to do. I'm just saying, like, you might want to shut the door next time. I thought this is a super fun exercise as well. I got to nerd out with the all-timers. That was just kind of cool to reminisce. Larry Fitzgerald was really close in 2009 as well. A lot of fun there. Michael Turner made a couple lists. Anyway, I want to do this again later before draft season, but do the same list, but do it as point per game, where you get guys like, T. Higgins and Puka Nacua, who are automatics, and a guy who just like compiled stats probably doesn't, like Garrett Wilson, it will be nowhere close to that list. I think it'd be really interesting to see that and compare those, because that's what you got to look at in preseason and postseason. So that's a lot of fun. All right, we're going to guess the hat very quickly and get out of here. Let's see. Is it silver, Matt, or gold? It's San Diego. Oh, Tampa Bay. No chance. Jeff, is it a sports hat?
Yep.
Give it to me. Spurs?
Yep.
Yeah, you've already seen these. These are old.
That's okay. That's okay. Savannah Bananas just got it from a buddy, a late Christmas present. Very excited about that. He literally felt so bad for me having to watch the Rose Bowl for Oregon versus Ohio State. He bought me a Savannah Bananas hat.
Nice.
All right. We're going to get out of here. For Jeff and Derek and Matt, we're going to call it good here for the Razzball Fantasy Football Show. Find us on all of our content at Razzball NFL. Subscribe to the podcast and the YouTube channel. All the articles, live and direct, for free at football.razzball.com. We'll catch you next time on the Razzball Fantasy Football Show. Hope you guys have a great evening and have a lot of fun. Be good to yourself and each other. We'll catch you next time. We are out.